It's your boy Moseefus, the 20 view king, and everything I do get 20 views. Yeah, we doing something different, man. It's halftime right now. You know, we do 5 videos that's a shuffle from the 5 different categories on YouTube, and then we do halftime, which is usually a pick of my choice. And it was a pick of my choice. The choice I made was to allow Metal Van homie in the chat, first time in the chat, in the Twitch chat today. I appreciate him. And I allow him to pick what he's going to do for halftime. And he went off the meat rack with it. He went off center with it. He said, let's do Formula One explained for rookies. It's not music, so it's going to go in the not music category. And listen, I don't even know how to drive. So, like, Formula One, let alone. So let's see how this feels. Let's see how this feels. Let's see how this looks.
Over the course of the next 66 laps. Max Verstappen is champion of the world.
You've been hearing about F1 too, right?
No.
Cool. Let's talk about it.
At all.
Formula One racing into Miami for the...
So, I know I said I was going to stop bringing up race so much, but do black people do this?
First
The
time.
hottest ticket in town.
Tom, Drive
At
to
all.
Survive.
Drive to survive.
Drive to survive.
This is a car.
Oh, black guy,
at
black guy.
over 200 miles an hour in cities all over the world.
Miami Grand Prix.
200 miles per hour, damn.
Here in
That's
Monaco.
crazy.
Insanely famous
Daniel
drivers.
Ricciardo.
Lewis Hamilton, 7-time
Black guy, black. Okay, let me shut the fuck up.
Racing cars so advanced that they're
Yeah,
practically
cornrows and all that.
spaceships. And so expensive that they had to make a rule that teams couldn't spend more than $140 million
Oh, wow.
each. Rule that so
Daniel Ricciardo.
Lewis Hamilton, 7-time world
and
champion.
100-person teams. Racing cars so advanced that they're practically spaceships.
$140,000
And so
on a
expensive
car.
that they had to make a rule that teams couldn't spend more than
$140 million on a car?
dollars each. And
That's crazy.
it's only getting bigger. Just look at this. This is from a construction camera at one of 2 new US racetracks. This one's in Miami. This cost $40 million to build, and it hosted nearly a quarter
How they
of a
stop from
million
dying
people over
every
3
race?
days. That's a Super Bowl worth of people every day. And one of them was me.
It's the first ever Miami Grand Prix. We're racing in the States and it's
Michael
lights out
Jordan,
away we
bitch
go.
ass.
This is the coolest thing.
I don't know why he a
I
bitch
just
ass. He a bitch
love
ass for some reasons, I'm sure.
But a lot of people, because of all this hype, they're hearing
be
about it right
having
now.
all
for
that
the
money
first
without
time.
being a
And
bitch
they're
ass.
feeling a little bit.
I don't understand.
So let's get into it. This is F1 explained for rookies. What you need to know to
me?
keep up with this crazy, expensive sport that everyone's suddenly
Okay,
obsessed
I'm
with.
here. I'm listening.
Verstappen holds it!
It's done.
But it's also a look at the bigger question here. The huge.
I need a new chair, man. This
Which is-
chair's not doing it no more.
Why do this? Like, why pour so
Right.
much money, so much technological effort into F1, into entertainment?
That's better. Put the lumbar.
The answer is in what we get in return. This isn't just a car race. This is a space program for the road.
General growth in interest.
Because they're practically flying at 200 miles per hour.
much more of a thing here in the States.
Monaco Grand Prix. Win the Italian Grand Prix.
Because at 200 miles per hour, the wheels probably aren't even proposed. It's like some jets. Like you got your aerodynamic and shit. The wheels are just keeping you from flying away. The wheels gotta be heavy, like to keep you from flying. That joint's crazy. They're crazy.
Bahrain Grand Prix.
If you're new
The
to
F is
F1,
F1.
you might know its American cousins. NASCAR has the least family resemblance. Closed cockpits, oval tracks. IndyCar and F1 look more related. They've got the spaghetti-looking track, open cockpits. But there's one really important difference between these two. And it's the reason why F1 specifically is such a big deal. In IndyCar, all of the cars use the same frame, or chassis, the DW12.
Okay.
So the competition here is mostly in how you race that car.
Ah,
But in F1,
you can make your
every
own
team has to
joint.
design and manufacture
And paper
their
airplanes
own
and
cars.
shit.
And the best part is that they get to improve the cars between each race, or not.
It's like a grown-ass
So
go-kart
the
race.
competition in F1 actually centers around the car itself. Not just how you race it, but also how you build it and rebuild it again and again and again. This is why I love F1. It looks like the sport of daredevils, but much more than that. It's the sport of nerds. But before we get to that, I want to show you something. One of the questions
Engineers
that I
and
get asked
shit.
most about my videos is, where did you get all of that footage? And the answer is Storyblocks.
I know of, okay, yeah, Storyblocks. I actually know of Storyblocks, yeah. Yeah, okay.
seriously, I use them all the time, and that's why I was super excited when they became Hugh Diffus's first ever
Is
sponsor.
this you're sponsored by them?
I love Storyblocks. So here's how this works. Let's say
Nah, we don't need
What
your
I wanna show.
Storyblocks ad.
download as
All
many
right.
favorite.
Y'all cool
Each team races
Storyblocks,
2
but
cars downloaded later in
that's
the
the
video.
other life. That's the other life.
Okay, each team races 2 cars, so 2 drivers for the same team. Each event, or Grand Prix, is 3 days: practice, qualifying, and race day. I watch these on TV every time they're on, but this was the first time I ever got to see it in person.
To see the car up close, that was awesome. Now I am inside the Mercedes garage.
Truly, I have never had more fun at a sporting event and seen less of what was actually going on.
So right now they're about to do a practice pit.
Here's how this works. The order of who does the fastest lap on qualifying day becomes the lineup at the starting line on race day. And passing isn't easy, so where you start is a
Ryan, he
Depending
bumped
on
the
where
shit
drivers
out.
finish, they get different numbers of points. After
Okay.
10th place, no points for you.
No soup for you.
Drivers want to get the most points themselves to win something called the Drivers' Championship. But teams want to get the most points total to win the Constructors' Championship. The 2 championship thing actually kind of
I
makes
don't give a
for
fuck
funny
about none of
mismatches
this.
sometimes. You can hear it on the radio when teams have one
I wanted to
strategy
hear
when
about
they
the
wanna let
science.
drivers pass each other.
Why the
and
cars
drivers
was
get
cool.
freaked out about that.
You gonna tell me the rules? I guess I got no rules to know why they make the cars do what they
But
do.
generally,
Alright.
everybody agrees about the big things, which are drivers, race your fastest. Teams, make the best car.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to hear about. The
Alright.
fast driving
Here's
and
the fun part.
best car making.
Lego
Legos.
is here.
Oh,
Hey, kids, look.
There's my driver. Hello, Lewis Hamilton.
you're not doing a good job,
Think of an
mama.
F1 car like an airplane upside down.
Okay, here we go.
Both meant to move as quickly through the air as possible, right? But where an airplane's wings work to lift it up, these cars' wings work to
Keep it down. Yep.
Why? Because winning doesn't just depend
know
on
so.
going fast. It also depends on keeping control.
Yo, I'm stupid. I'm sitting here like, of course you're gonna say going down. I'm sitting here trying to act like I'm smart and shit. Yep, down. Yep. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yo, forgive me, y'all. Forgive me. Yep.
And that requires a firm grip on the ground.
I make
Take a
myself
look at the
laugh.
shape of this car. Now watch how the air moves across it. See how some goes above the wing and some squeezes the long way underneath it? That creates a situation where there's higher pressure above and lower pressure below, sucking the car toward the ground. That's actually happening all over the car, not just on the wings. And we could talk for hours about the design features on this thing, how they shape and use the air. Some pull air in through the car to cool it down. You can actually see there's a hole there. I think they're trying to imply that on my Lego model. Some actually let the driver release air, lessening that downward pressure and allowing them to go faster in order to pass. Kind of
crazy.
like a Mario boost.
Uh-huh.
You can actually hear this in a race. Listen for DRS here.
Now, Charles Leclerc is going to have DRS
wow.
to try and fight it back.
Taken together, an F1 car is
It's just like, let's.
a symphony
wild.
of aerodynamics.
So what happens if something breaks?
I actually got to see them up close and
a
personal
wrap.
when I was in Miami.
We're going there.
I absolutely did not keep my cool.
Trying to be cool, but it's a real thing here.
You can see teams perfecting these cars over the years, understanding the need for wings and adding them and changing the shape and pushing our
Is it like an
understanding of
agreeable
aerodynamics to
model
shave off
at this point?
fractions of a second. Hundreds,
Like, the
sometimes
science should be
thousands of
consistent
people work on this,
at this
all
point,
for
right?
one team. So,
Computers are so
does
good.
this
And
cost?
the math of it should be very much figured it out.
F1
it
teams
out.
don't really want to share the details here, so there's
Figure
a
it
lot
out.
of speculation. But they're also companies, and some of them have to file their financials somewhere. So with a little bit of research into various European countries' reporting requirements, hold on.
Too much
Dun, dun, dun,
gas, y'all.
dun. Here they are. Annual reports for every F1 team I could find. Which is actually 8 out of 10, so I'm feeling pretty good about it.
I want to see more
As a fan,
experiments.
this is kind of cool. Like, look, this is Toto Wolff's signature. What I
Okay.
learned from all this is that running an F1 team costs anywhere from $95 million to $425 million.
Damn.
That's a lot of money.
But
Gotta
the
pay
year
everybody,
after
though.
these were filed, F1 instituted a new rule saying all
That's
teams
a
were
lot of
only allowed to
money.
spend $140 million. So these reports are going to look a lot different for this next coming year.
Oh, good.
Still a lot. No matter what, F1 teams spend a ton of money. So what do they make? These reports show that F1 teams make approximately nothing. They run surprisingly close to break even. Red Bull, for example, made $230 million in revenue, and then add these two up, $229 million in costs.
So
And they ended up with approximately $1.2 million in profit. This is in pounds, actually, so that's $1.5 million. These aren't the wildly profitable enterprises I was imagining. So why do they do it? Well,
1.5 million is not good profit.
This is the Ferrari
What
annual
you talking
report.
about?
Our brand image depends in part on the success of our
that
Formula
scale.
One racing team. The racing team is a key component of our marketing
Or the
strategy.
25 million spent.
It's advertising.
Advertising. It's great.
They use F1 to sell other stuff, whether that's luxury sports cars or a sports drink.
Okay. Advertising for the car
as
car
entertainment,
companies.
F1 is incredible. But a lot of people do feel that it's somewhat wasteful.
How much does a Formula One car cost?
400 million.
Was it worth all that money?
This is bigger than
Interesting.
F1. It's kind of crazy to think about how much work we as a species put into entertaining ourselves. But I think what makes F1 feel particularly acute for some people is the technology element here. All of this engineering work and all of this energy being spent on 20 fossil fuel reliant cars makes people wonder sometimes if that energy might be better spent elsewhere.
Like literally anywhere else.
But F1 is more than just entertainment. It's better thought of actually as one giant experiment. F1 pushes everything to the extreme. What do you need to create to compete at this level, to keep control at these speeds, to keep the driver safe in these conditions? The idea is that the technology that they build ends up trickling down to all of us non-race car drivers.
Right.
My question was, is this actually true or does it just sound good? I wanted to find specific car parts that were developed
But they're like, the cars are like Red Bull and stuff, not like Chevy and Nissan and whatever, like the different car companies, right? So I don't know. I was trying to make sense of it, thinking like the car companies themselves, because then like that one says Honda, so like Honda's showing off its mechanic skills, and like, you know, if we have the best F1 car, of course we have the best normal car. You know what I mean? That makes sense.
for F1 and then ended up in my car. But the more research I did, the more complicated it got. People often talk about paddle shifters, for example, but those were actually developed decades before F1. F1 teams just made them better. Same for active suspension, anti-lock brakes, traction control. What I found was that F1 was less trickle-down and more flywheel. F1 combines technologies that might already exist and then pushes them to an extreme, making them better in the process and then inspiring, or literally manufacturing, better tech for all of us. For example, take thermal efficiency, the percentage of energy from combustion that actually makes the car go, as opposed to being lost to heat. Most combustion road cars have a thermal efficiency between 20 and 30%, which means only a third of the energy actually makes the car go. F1 cars can't refuel during the race, so there's a very strong incentive for them to be efficient. They're at about 50% now, thanks to new hybrid engines. Gains that have been
Wow, we can't
dragging
have
the
that.
rest of the car
You
industry
don't want
forward.
real cars that have
Or
that.
data collection. Sensors on F1 cars collect huge amounts
Okay,
of
instead
information
of
and then
was
feed it
pushing
back to
cars
the
forward.
driver and the team. They didn't invent a lot of these systems, but they use them in ways that they've never been used before. And that's actually getting more and more important as we move potentially towards self-driving cars. This is the real promise of F1, and it all stems from that original requirement to build their
It's a
own
testing
cars.
ground.
Basically, we'll do all of this research and development, and we'll create new technologies and also combine all of the cutting-edge tech, and we'll push it to its limits and develop it further, and you don't even need to pay for it. We'll race these things against other groups of engineers doing exactly the same thing in this crazy round-the-world sport that lots of people really love, that is actually, at the end of the day, the biggest, most expensive group project science competition of all time. People debate whether or not we should spend money
So it's not a
on
sport.
lots of our efforts.
I don't want to hear no shit about it
And
being a
yet,
sport.
They
Ain't
consistently
no athletes
push forward
involved.
both the tech that we actually use and our understanding of the world around
Dunk
us.
on all them.
In this case, it also makes some money and it's fun to watch.
Okay.
I think
So,
once you see the promise of F1, it'll
interesting. I definitely learned stuff. I definitely learned
We need
stuff.
people working.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with that knowledge. It
Pulling
ain't gonna
forward
help me at all,
what we can do.
but I
The question
learned
now
stuff.
is what do we need to learn next? If F1 pushes forward car innovation and the future of cars is electric,
Okay.
does F1 need to get more electric too? And if F1 doesn't go more electric, does it get farther and farther from its original promise over time? Less applicable to the technology that we use and more
Electric
novelty.
cars in F1?
Let's go
Wouldn't that
watch
be
those cars that
bastardization?
use gas.
What you do there,
I don't know.
Eugene?
Now you're up to speed. You can watch a race,
Oh,
you
that's
can
what's
enjoy
up.
it with your friends, and you can also
shouts out
speculate,
Eugene,
like,
giving
what's
us
the
sub.
best, where it's all gonna go. I'll be
What's up,
watching,
man?
and I'll be rooting for my favorite team.
Alright, that was Formula One explained for rookies. And that one. Shouts out Metal Van.